Hey Trance family, Brandon Beatty here. Welcome to the third video in our series where we're putting together an uplifting trance track completely from scratch. I'm using Ableton, but again guys, it doesn't matter which DAW you guys are using. Anybody should be able to follow along with this video. Just to recap, in the first video we put together the framework of our track, which means we know where our intro is, we have our exposition, we know when we're building the track up, we know where the drop is, where the main leads are coming in. So we have a general framework, and then the next video, the second video, we talked about putting together our chord progression, and for now I just used basic triads. I'm using a minor chord progression centered, or it's sort of a pop progression that's pretty familiar. Okay. That's the 1-6 minor 1-6-3-7 A F C G. We're in the key of A for this track. And quick disclaimer, guys, in the first video, or the last video, sorry, we talked about the different roles that sort of need to be taken on when you're producing music. And I think the first role that we really talked about was obviously the role of being a producer. Producers sort of select the sound. We select sort of take the project in a direction, okay? And the other role that we briefly talked about was being the artist. The artist is sort of the songwriter, okay? That's the one who's sort of putting the art into this project. And the third role I want to talk about is sound design, okay? Professional club-ready tracks use professional sounds, okay? These aren't just like standard sounds. These are sounds that were designed to be used in club tracks, and unless you're a sound designer or have an understanding of what these sounds sort of require, you're going to need a sample pack, okay? There's just no way around it, guys. I don't use my own sounds all the time. I definitely rely on high quality sample packs that are geared towards producers like us who are trying to make club ready tracks. One great sample pack that a lot of people start with is this Freshly Squeezed Samples Dave Parkinson Trance Essentials Volume 2. This is a great sound pack. It's got literally everything you need. A lot of people start with this one. You can make any kind of club ready music, just about any kind, with this pack. Not just trance, but it's adaptable to just making club music in general. So once you guys have a high quality pack that has everything you need in it, as like, you know, most things, you can even just get kick drum packs, whatever you need. We're going to pull our kick drum folder open here, and we're going to go through some of these sounds, and you're going to want to audition them. So this is part of the process, guys. You really need to audition these sounds, and you do need to have an idea of the sort of sound you're looking for. And so for the kick, I'm definitely looking for something a little bit hard hitting, something that's not quite like a house kick, not something bouncy. I'm looking for like a hard hitting kick. That first one sort of is good for me. That one I'm not into. I do like the third one. Okay. That one, I don't know, is a little too funky for me. Okay, number 10 is good. I think I'm going to go with number 3. Yeah. So in Ableton, we can just drop our sample sort of into this, into an empty MIDI track. It says drop instrument or sample here. If you drop the sample into there, it turns into a sample player, which is a great device for playing our samples. We do want to go in and be able to have control over how long the note lasts for, especially for the kick drum, because it is important that, right, if we break this each beat up into 4 parts, it's important that the kick is only sounding on the first half of the beat, which is the first 2 16th notes, also the first, which is also the first 8th note. Okay? The second 8th note in the beat should be reserved for the sub bass. So hopefully I'm explaining this well. But here, if you look on my screen, this is the first half of the beat. This is the second half of the beat. This is beat 2. This is beat 3. And the 4th beat. And you see we have space for the off sub. Okay, the sub bass is going to take up this space. All right, and we're going to loop this. We're going to create a 8-bar loop. Okay. And we want to make sure our BPM is set right. In my project, I'm set at 140, but uplifting trance could be like 136, 138, 140. That's where you get to pick. All right, and we're going to stay organized, guys. We are going to label this kick. Go over here, label it kick, and we're going to color them. It is important to stay organized, guys. We might get up to the point where we have close to 100 tracks. Okay, so staying organized helps us do that all the way through. So once we have the kick and we have a nice loop playing, we will go ahead, and I recommend, again, I have a video on my channel talking more about this, but we're just going to pull up a VU meter, okay? And we're going to make sure that kick isn't going beyond 0 on the VU meter, so we're going to pull up a gain plugin. Oops, I'm going to pull this guy up here. And we're going to adjust the kick drum so that it comes down to 0. Perfect. So we're not using our mixing fader to adjust the kick, okay? And we want to make sure when we do look at our mixing window, okay, I pull up the mixing window here, we want to try to get that kick somewhere around -15. So mine's about -14, so that should be okay. So if we need to adjust it by a decibel, we could always grab the mix fader and bring it down. But for now, we will keep it there. The next thing that we want to do is do our sub bass. Okay. So the easiest way to get a sub bass for trance is to make our own sub bass using a synthesizer. And really, you could use just about any synthesizer. We're just going to pull up Spire and use that. So let's drop an instrument in here again. Here, we can just drop it here. It'll create a track for us. And we're going to stay organized and label it sub bass. All right. Going to make another MIDI track. And again, our track is in the key of A. Okay. And we're going to put the sub bass on the offbeat. Sorry. Also need to focus. It is kind of hard to do this and talk at the same time. It's almost like a skill in itself. This is not the right. Oh, it switched to 16ths on me. So yeah, just make sure you're in the right quantization setting, or for your grid, because sometimes it does adjust by itself. Okay. So for a peak time track, it could actually be beneficial to have the sub bass do like a double pulse type of thing. So maybe if we do 16th notes and we actually sort of make them, even just make them a little bit shorter than a 16th and have 2. Maybe just a little bit longer. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and loop this again for 8 bars. Just to make sure that this is locked into the grid. So sometimes this grid can be a little funny. We don't select the right thing. There we go. Okay. I know it doesn't quite sound like a sub bass yet, but just bear with me, guys. Again, making music is also like a process. If you think of like baking a cake or making a stew, you know, there's a process involved. First, we start with basic ingredients. So this is our basic ingredient, and then we do need to add a little salt and pepper to it to make it sound good. So here in the side length, all I'm using is a saw wave, and I just have the basic ADSR. Literally, I didn't really have to adjust anything to get this to happen. I think we'll keep it there. And it's also good that if on our main channel here, we put up a span plugin. Span is this spectrum analyzer. This one is free, so if you don't have this, definitely go download Span. This will allow us to see what we're working with. And we want just the sub note. We're actually going to bring this down 1 octave so we can get that sub frequency. There we go. And yep, we're on the A. Okay. So the next step, once we have that basic pattern and the saw wave, is we actually want to stretch this lower so we can keep this on the screen. We want to filter that saw wave, okay, and put up the fab filter. So I like fab filter. It's probably the most flexible sort of filter that you could use for professional music like this. It's a really great tool. Okay, we're just gonna do a high pass filter, probably somewhere around 60 hertz, and we're gonna do a low pass filter around like 80 hertz. Okay, and this is gonna filter out our sub bass, and we're gonna do definitely sharper curves here. Maybe we'll bring this one down to 50 or so. This one we could probably bring up to 90. Okay, not bad. And if we look at the spectrum analyzer, where did it go? There it is. Let's solo that sub bass. Okay, that's not bad. That's good. So we have the that sub frequency there. And the next thing we want to do, again, get out our VU meter. Okay. I think it's actually important that before we have the VU meter go into the filter, we want to make sure that it is not going above 0. So here it's -3. That's the sound directly coming out of the synthesizer. Then we put the VU meter after the filter, and we see that it is still, see that? It went down 6 decibels. So now we want to get that fader plug in, and again, put the fader plug in before the meter, and we're going to push this up about 6 decibels. Okay, and make sure we're at 0. All right, and this is to kind of maintain the same volume of signal as we're pushing the signal through these different devices. We want to try to maintain this level. Next, it's important we put the saw wave through a compressor, and that will make it hit just a little bit better. Let's pull up a different compressor here, one that's a little bit easier to follow. We want that. What is the name of that compressor? 1 second, guys. Oh, here it is, Vertigo. Okay, we'll delete this guy. All right, so when we're compressing a sub bass, I know like compression, if you don't know compression, that's like a whole separate video in itself, a whole different topic. But quick rules for a sub bass, we definitely want more of a 2-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio. We want a longer attack, so like a 10 millisecond attack is definitely where we want to be. And we want a quicker release just so that the compressor resets faster. So the 10 millisecond attack is long enough to allow our sub frequency through. The quick release is good enough to allow that bass to snap back. And we just want to start adjusting the threshold down so we get about 3 decibels of compression. Again, we want to check our meter. Yep, we got close to 3 decibels, okay. And then here we just want to increase this makeup gain so that we're back to 0 over here. Okay. Let me just turn up my volume a little bit. Okay. And so now we have the kick and sub bass, leveled properly. We have the gain staging correct. Again, I have another video that goes into this in a little bit more detail, and we'll see how they sound. So definitely, if we look at the analyzer, we will see that the kick drum somewhere around this 48 mark. That sub bass should be a little bit lower if we solo the sub bass. Yeah, so right now, if it's about the same level is the kick, they're going to be fighting. And if you don't have really good speakers, this is a great way to sort of see what's going on in the sub bass range. So here we're just going to pull this back. Actually, first, another thing we should do, we should put it through kickstart. Okay. Kickstart is a really useful tool. You're definitely going to want this one if you're making, uplifting trance and stuff. We're going to pick one of these sub bass patterns. Yeah, that's great. Okay. And that's going to do our ducking for us and make sure that that sub bass is out of the way of the kick. And we're going to pull this sub bass back probably about 6 decibels. And we will pull up the analyzer here. Okay, remember our kick was about 48. So our sub bass could sort of rest at that next line right there. I think that could be good. Okay, I'm liking that. Not bad. Maybe we'll increase it just a little bit. Okay. And another trick, we can put the VU meter at the end of our chain here and just make sure this is our master bus. Just make sure the whole mix is coming in at about 0 as well. Okay. And that's it, guys. That's how I start the kick and sub bass. Once we have our root note on the sub bass, now we know that we could put in the chord progression. So here, the chord progression is 1 beat each. Oops, I didn't mean to fold this. Oops, what is going on here? So we're going to go A. It was A, F, C, G. We could go down here. Okay. Oops. And we're going to duplicate that. Okay, so now we have the chords. And you could really put this because the sub bass isn't going to really play during the theme. It's really going to be during the drop. So here we can just sort of repeat the kick pattern. And I like to sort of, not just drag it all the way through, but so we can kind of see what's going on. So we'll put this at the drop. Okay, we can just loop that through. Oops. And we can put this in. So we started laying out some of the framework for our track. We can even put the chords on top of it. So this is a bit loud. So let's turn these down. Yeah. Okay. So, all right, guys. I know it doesn't sound like much yet, but it's really important that we get our kick and sub bass figured out and ironed out in the beginning, and that will make building the rest of the track much easier. Okay, so I'll see you guys in the next video where we're going to build up the percussion section, or we'll add in the mid basses, either one. So depending on how I feel when I start recording that video is sort of where we're going to start taking the track. All right, thanks for tuning in, guys.